it looks like today Sony had their big showcase and they dropped the ball. But it's not all bad. We'll get into the video. Let's talk about it. Yo, what's going on, guys? It's that guy Ken back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about Sony's showcase that they just had today. Today was the big day where Sony was supposed to, break the internet and, whatever, man, have their, generation defining showcase. And I could tell you one thing, they broke the internet, but definitely not in the way that people thought, right? Because I think the show, for most people, at least most of us within our enthusiast group, right, we're disappointed. And I'm gonna try to explain to you as to why that is. And I myself fall into that category for sure. So I'm gonna tell you from my perspective why I think that is as well. Now, why do I think that a lot of us as enthusiasts are disappointed in this show? Well, first of all, right, the obvious thing is that Sony hasn't had a showcase for almost 2 years now, right? It's been like 18 months, close to 2 years, and they haven't had a major showcase showcasing any of their studios' games, right? So this showcase was supposed to be, right, the showcase that gave us all of the blowout updates and all of the stuff that their studios are supposed to be working on, right? Now, why is that important? It's important because, right, the PS5 is in a pivotal point, right, where we've already gotten a lot of the games that have, been announced for the PlayStation 5. They've all been released, right? A lot of them have been cross-generation games, and now a lot of people are expecting to see what PlayStation has to do next, right? And we're expecting to see a lot of games that do come to the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 exclusively, and we want to see what the power of the PlayStation 5 can do, you know what I mean? And we see a glimpse of that with some games like Final Fantasy and stuff like that, and we saw that with Spider-Man a little bit, right? But nonetheless, this show was not that. What the show was, right, was a misstep, in my personal opinion, because the pivotal thing that Sony was missing that they needed were the support from the first party studios, which is the biggest thing, the biggest gap, right, that we haven't had for a while now. And we already know that when it comes to this year, right, in 2023, it's been pretty light for first party, and that's not a bad thing because I think they've been doing great, since the beginning of the generation and even before, right? But if you're gonna hype up an event, right, you need to make sure that your showcase is going to deliver on what people are expecting, right? And they just didn't do it, man. And to make it worse, right, is that a lot of the games that they did show, right, a lot of them were third party, and a lot of them look great. Like, the point is not that the show was necessarily like a bad like a bad showing, but it's just that they dropped the ball where it was most important, right? Because a lot of those third party games look great, and I can tell you right now that I'm definitely going to buy a lot of them because they look great, right? And there's no denying that. But the point is that in order to have a successful show, right, in order to give us, right, what the show was supposed to do, which is a roadmap for what PlayStation can do, especially now being at this point where we're supposed to see what the PlayStation 5 can do in their studios, this show just didn't offer that, man. And it's just, like I said, it's worse because it doesn't make sense to me, because a lot of the games that there are a lot of games that Sony has announced thus far, right? And for them to show none of them, right? Games like Stellar Blade and Final Fantasy Rebirth and Death Stranding 2 and a bunch of all of these other games that they had that they could have shown, they didn't. They showed a lot of third party, a lot of indie, and a couple of the first party games, which this is the other thing that I think that they kind of misstepped with, right? Because they did have some first party games there, right? But the problem is that the first party games that they did have, right, They were games as a service, which personally I don't have a problem with it, right? Because I want to see what they can do. I want to see what they're capable of when it comes to live service and multiplayer stuff, right? But the problem that they have, right, is that they showed a few trailers of live service games, right, which people are highly skeptical of. I mean, people are super skeptical of live service games. So if at the very least, right, if you're gonna show live service and multiplayer games, right, then show gameplay. Like, show us something that we can latch onto and not just have this abstract idea that Sony's going all into the multiplayer and live service realm, right, without actually knowing what it's going to be. So it's a misstep, man. I think that they should have at least showed us gameplay for the live service games that they did have, right? But they didn't. Coupled with the fact that they didn't have anything to mitigate the fact that they didn't show gameplay for those, like with their single player games. They didn't have any major announcement single player wise that we didn't already know of. Spider-Man looked amazing, right? And anybody who says otherwise, they're crazy, right? Spider-Man looked amazing, but it wasn't enough, right, to mitigate the damage that they did, right? So, like I said, all in all, man, the show was definitely a misstep. It was definitely a misstep. Was it a bad show? I don't think it was a bad show because, like I said, I think they had a lot of awesome looking games, but the purpose of the show was to give people a roadmap, and that's not what they did. And in that regard, I think it was a misstep. And like I said, with the whole live service thing, complete misstep, man. You know, I definitely don't think it was a bad show, but I think in terms of the standards that we have for the platform, most of us, right, as enthusiasts, myself included, right, this was definitely not a good showcase for Sony and PlayStation, right? I think that it could have been much better, right? And all of those games that I mentioned before, Death Stranding and all those other games, right? It would have even been a better show if they just gave us an update on those games, right? Rise of the Ronin, there's a whole bunch of them that they've announced. They could have at the very least given us updates on those games, and the show would have been infinitely better, but that's not what they did, you know? But like I said, it's not all bad. It's just the purpose that it was set out to do just they didn't achieve that, right? Now, what they might do is somewhere in Summer Games Fest, they might give us a few announcements or whatever the case, right? Maybe somewhere down the line later on this year. I think that's what they should do, because at this point, man, like you really need to, you know, get more information out there for people, man, because it's been too long, right? And that's the thing that I think is the worst thing, is that it's been too long, man, for you to have such a big misstep and not have any major updates aside from what we already know, right, than what you did. But anyway, guys, that's all I had to say on this particular topic. I don't have anything else to say. If you liked the video, make sure you like, share, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section, hit that notification bell, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.